This is Sabafa Curry of the Heart and Home podcast on Sunday, March 15, 2020. I couldn't sleep last night after listening to episode 51 of Rumble with Michael Moore. It's called Emergency Podcast System, The Awful Truth. I urge you to listen to this 56-minute and 51-second podcast in which Michael Moore shares some very disturbing news. And that led me to think all night about whether I should do this podcast this morning. And I find that I am compelled to tell you, please stay home. You might have heard the term agoraphobia. Those are people that are afraid to leave their home. It's an anxiety disorder where people perceive their environment to be unsafe, like public transit, shopping centers, or being outside their home. It's an ancient Greek term named after Agora in Delos, Greece. This shouldn't be confused with acrophobia, which is a fear of heights. Well, I want you to pretend that you have agoraphobia, and I want you to stay home, please. This morning at 5 a.m., as my parents tried to leave the house, I urged them to stay home. I said to them that this was very serious. I sat them down and I said, I know this is a disruption of your life, but you are in the age group that is above 60, where if you contract the coronavirus and you're unable to breathe and you have to go to the hospital, there are not enough machines to help you breathe. Now, the whole reason for being home and closing the schools and quarantining and locking down countries, which we have yet to do, we are talking about days. We're days away. I'm sure of it. You've seen it in Italy. You now have heard about it in Spain. France is following suit. Don't wait for the president or anyone. You should be smart enough to know better. Now that people have bought all that they can at the stores and they've emptied them out, give them time to refill and restock the aisles. Stay home, rest, enjoy your family, and protect yourself. You could be a carrier even though you don't have symptoms. Now, as China celebrates the closing of their last temporary hospital, the rest of the world is on lockdown to fight the coronavirus. So we first heard about this. It began there in late November. Okay, this is mid-March. So we are talking several months. I am quarantining my parents. My father's 89, my mother is 82, at home, because not that they have a health ailment or that they are on oxygen, they're fine. But because this disease attacks the elderly, I'm afraid that they are more susceptible to it. So that's why I'm asking them to stay home. If you have neighbors or parents or grandparents, you should be urging them to stay home as well. This is life and death. I don't want to scare anyone. I just want to share this with you because I care about you and I want people to be aware. This is not just because it is necessary. It is because we don't know what we're facing. We don't know exactly what the other people have gone through. We hear noise, but we don't even know what's even going in Iran. You may have seen photos that have surfaced yesterday of mass graves in that country. You may have heard that the call to prayer in Kuwait is now telling people to not come to the mosque, to stay at home and pray there. Al-Aqsa Mosque has now closed. Other places of worship should also be closed around the world and here in the United States. In speaking to my relatives, I urge them to stay home, to avoid going to any services. We are not going to my uncle's birthday party today. He is turning 89 or 90, we're not exactly sure, and he is living in a senior citizen's home, and they are on lockdown. I don't know if you have an aging parent that is in a home, and if you are aware of all the cases that have died in the nursing home in Washington State. There's a large cluster. I believe there were about 37 that have died in the one nursing home just outside of Seattle. That doesn't mean if you're elderly that you're the only one at risk. What they're saying now is even though this disease does not affect children, they could still be carriers and they could bring it into the home that might affect their elderly. Like say if you have a grandparent that's living with you, or if you take care of your parents or grandparents. So I just want you to be smart, to be vigilant. Please listen to this podcast, and in it I will include the links that Michael Moore shares of the studies that you should read and become aware of what has happened, because you know that and you have to look at the indications of what has happened to give you an idea. And believe me, when they say that this is going to explode, trust me, don't take any chances. I know a lot of people out there are thinking that you're panic buying and stop hoarding the toilet paper. Listen, do what you have to do. I went and I purchased items myself this week. No, I didn't buy a room full of toilet paper, but by the time I got there, it was cleaned out anyway, so I couldn't even get that much. I bought what I could within reason. Of course, the stores will not close. So you may have heard that some of the stores are cutting back on their hours. That is going to be something that is going to be normal. It'll allow them time to restock their aisles and their shelves, allow people to go in and out, make sure that you keep your distance. So stores will be open just like in other countries. You'll still be able to go get your medicines, your gasoline, newspapers, tobacco, major items that you need. So don't worry. Just make sure that you are keeping your social distance, which is the whole reason why we need to be vigilant and just stay home. Now, 30 days seems like a long time, but if it's life and death, would you consider it? For the Heart and Home podcast, I'm Sabah Fakuri. I'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.